Jensen Wong compared the growing AI economy to a 5-layer cake recently. He broke it down as energy, chips, infrastructure, models, and applications. So how can investors play all 5 layers and make smart picks beyond the traditional Magnificent 7 stocks? I want to bring in Tony Huang, T. Rowe Price Science and Technology Equity Strategy Portfolio Manager. Tony, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. So obviously, one of the biggest spokespeople for AI generally is Jensen Huang. So when he sort of breaks down the different components there and also pushes back against the AI idea of an AI bubble, the market does listen to him. Where we are right now in this progression, how are you thinking about it through your investing strategy lens?
Yeah, well, I think that we're still relatively early in the build out for AI. I mean, this is a total refactoring of how things have been done historically. So I really think that the AI infrastructure build out is like the railroads of today. And so to me, what matters is that there's continues to be additional use of AI and this transition to agentic AI and eventually the physical world. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of the inference capabilities, powering a lot of new applications, the token profitability for the consumption. And then in terms of the training side, I think what matters is this, that the move to AGI is actually accelerating. And so I think we've seen a lot of encouraging data points along the way in the last few weeks.
And specifically also, what about the data points from the companies themselves in terms of profitability, in terms of revenue generation? What are you finding sort of most encouraging throughout that universe that illustrates return on investment?
Yeah, well, so when an industry is going through hyper growth, I think there's going to be a lot of capital chasing, and then there's also going to be a lot of competitors and players that enter the market, both existing and new. So I don't think the returns are going to be evenly distributed. So I think it's not surprising that some companies are making a lot more gross margin than others. And so to me, what matters is that you want to invest on the platforms that are able to provide a lot of value and capture a lot of value along the way.
Are you concerned about overbuilding at all?
I think that this will be cyclical, and just like anything in the world, nothing goes straight up to the right. But at the same time, I think that over the multi-year, I think we're just at the beginning of the AI kind of super cycle. And so to me, I think it's an inevitability that, AI agents work alongside humans that improves our productivity. But I do think that we have to monitor the cycle. And just like semiconductors, historically have been very cyclical, I think it's something that as investors, we need to manage through.
Tony, I think it's interesting. You sent us a list of stocks that you're excited about. And this is not to say that you don't hold others in this universe. But it's 4 stocks: NVIDIA, Broadcom, Micron, and Microsoft. What I think is interesting about this list is that Alphabet is not on it, because Alphabet has been sort of catching fire a little bit more lately with Gemini 3 and Nano Banana. Why isn't it on this list?
Yeah, so I think that the Google is definitely going to be a beneficiary of this, and I would definitely have them on that list as well. And so, to me, it's like, multiple companies are well positioned and it's not a winner take all. And if anything, I think that the market continues to be really large and they're all doing a little bit different things to some extent. And so I think Google, continues to have a lot of digital properties it can leverage AI across. So, and the models are performing really well. But I do think it's going to be a kind of rotation of leadership among a small group. So I would have them on the list and think of them as like a good compounder.
I'm also curious to ask about Micron, because it's not just about Micron, it's more about memory pricing more broadly, which, as we know, has spiked here. So Micron sort of concentrating more in the high bandwidth memory, i.e. AI serving part of its business. What kind of ripple effect does all this have throughout the tech industry?
Yeah, so I think whenever you're going from 0 to 100, there's going to be bottlenecks along the way. And I think HBM is one of those. And so, the industry is kind of consolidated around DRAM. There used to be a lot of players, now there's only a few. And Micron, I think, is well positioned to capture that value as AI continues to proliferate and these GPUs need more HBM. In addition, I think the broader markets are probably going to be improved eventually. And so there could be like continued tightness in the industry. And you've seen kind of DRAM prices continue to go up. And so, I view them as like a key picks and shovel provider to kind of the AI race here.
And you talked about bottleneck. Of course, energy is another bottleneck that's been highlighted a lot recently, including by Jensen Huang in the comments he made in DC earlier this week. So is who's going to win from a compute perspective going forward at least partially going to be determined by whether they can get enough energy?
Yeah, it's definitely a key area of focus, I would say. I think it's more of an engineering problem that with enough capital and brain power that the industry figures out here. And so, but it's definitely like, we're scaling from, this level to what we need in 10 years. Energy is definitely a key bottleneck. And so there are several companies in the supply chain that are kind of well-positioned, I think, in that picks and shovels category, like Vertiv, that benefit, based on the gigawatts that are deployed. But I do think that semis continue to be a real beneficiary. I think a lot of them, help with the power and cooling, like monolithic power. You need to cool the GPUs, and then there's also the networking aspect that you need to have better connections from GPU to GPU, like Arista. And so there's definitely, I think, a lot of companies that can benefit and that are really strong moated businesses here.